In the heart of Norse cosmos, where the 9 realms revolve around the great world tree Yggdrasil, lies a legend buried by time. An ancient prophecy, whispered by the blind seeresses of fate, foretelling that one day the sky would shatter, the sun would vanish, and a war between gods and monsters would engulf all existence. And at the center of this apocalypse stood a wolf. But not an ordinary wolf. This was Fenrir, a being born from chaos, bearing the form of a beast, but harboring a soul heavy with nameless resentment. From the moment it was but a pup, Fenrir struck fear into the hearts of the gods. Not for what it had done, but for what it was destined to do. In prophetic visions, Fenrir was the one who would slay Odin, the All-Father of Asgard, and signal the beginning of Ragnarok, the end of all things. Yet, was this fate truly destiny, or was it the fear of the gods that gave birth to the monster? Fenrir was chained, betrayed, cast into darkness, all in an attempt to delay the inevitable day. Today, we unveil the secrets of the beast bound between worlds, of the unbreakable chains, and the prophecy that haunted the gods for millennia. Fenrir, the bound monster and the prophecy of the end, begins now. Fenrir was no ordinary creature. He was the son of Loki, the trickster god, born of both giant and divine blood. In the bleak hours of a winter night in Jotunheim, Loki united with Angerboda, a giantess dwelling in the deep woods. From their union came 3 terrifying offspring: Jormungandr, the sea serpent encircling Midgard; Hel, the mistress of the underworld; and at last, Fenrir, a wolf possessing unfathomable power. From an early age, Fenrir unsettled the gods. He grew at an unnatural pace, and in his deep, wild eyes was not just the gaze of a beast, but the stare of something that saw beyond the veil of the world. The gods of Asgard, led by Odin, grew anxious. They didn't see Fenrir as a child. They saw him as a living curse. Odin, having sacrificed one of his eyes to see the future, had glimpsed the most dreadful vision. Fenrir would be his end at Ragnarok. This fear didn't stay with Odin alone. It spread across all the realms. The gods deliberated, this wolf must not remain free. Yet he was still a pup, and the gods dared not slay him, for that would violate the sacred laws that bound the worlds. So they chose to raise Fenrir in the heart of Asgard, under watch, under fear. Only Tyr, the brave god of war, dared approach. Him, to feed him, to speak with him. Between them grew a strange bond, part friendship, part vigilance. But Fenrir grew, and grew, his teeth like blades, his breath like winter storms. The gods knew time was slipping away. Fenrir's presence was like an hourglass counting down, and the final grain was falling. Odin decided Fenrir must be bound, not for crimes committed, but for the crimes foretold. Fenrir grew like a storm wind. Each day he grew taller, his claws sharper, his gaze darker. The gods no longer saw him as a beast. They saw him as a ticking bomb, waiting to detonate. The fear no longer lay in what Fenrir had done, but in what he might do. And so, Odin made the fateful choice: bind the wolf, before it was too late. First, they forged a chain called Leidingr, heavy as stone, strong as iron, forged in Asgard's sacred fires. They brought it before Fenrir, telling him it was a game, a test of his strength. Naive and proud, Fenrir agreed. With a twist of his body, he shattered Leidingr like dry twigs. The gods were shaken. They forged a second chain, Dromi, twice, as thick, 3 times as heavy. Again, they coaxed Fenrir into the game. It took a few moments longer, but still, Fenrir broke free. The gods began to tremble. They knew brute force would never hold this beast. With no other option, they turned to the dwarves of Svartalfheim, masters of forging divine weapons. But the dwarves crafted not with iron or stone. They forged Gleipnir, a ribbon-thin chain, smooth as silk, delicate as lace, yet stronger than anything ever made. Gleipnir was woven from 6 impossibilities: the sound of a cat's footsteps, the beard of a man, the roots of a mountain, the sinews of a bear, the breath of a fish, and the spit of a bird. None had seen these things, for they had been claimed to create Gleipnir. The gods brought this ribbon to a remote field of stone in Asgard, where the wind howled and the sun barely shone. Once more, they invited Fenrir to play the binding game. But this time, Fenrir hesitated. He saw no fear in their eyes, only secrecy. He sensed deceit in the air. Fenrir said, "I will agree to be bound by your silken thread, but only if one among you has the courage to place their hand in my mouth. If this is truly a game, you shall lose nothing. But if you deceive me, I will tear that hand away." Silence followed. No god stepped forward, except for Tyr, god of war, Fenrir's only friend. Without a word, he placed his left hand between the wolf's jaws, eyes unwavering. And then Gleipnir tightened. Fenrir thrashed. He roared, twisted, tore at the stones, but the ribbon held. When he realized he had been betrayed, Fenrir howled with such fury that the heavens trembled, and in his desperate rage he bit down, severing Tyr's hand. Tyr did not cry out, nor did he curse. He simply stepped back, blood falling on cold stone, his gaze filled not with anger, but sorrow. The gods rejoiced, but Fenrir remained silent. Hatred festered within him. Betrayed by those who called themselves gods, bound for a sin not yet committed, he was no longer a harmless pup. Fenrir had awakened and swore that one day the chain would break, and when it did, the world would pay. In the cold silence of Asgard, where northern winds howl across mist-veiled peaks, the grim prophecy of Ragnarok still spreads like a poisonous fog. It will not be a mere battle, but the final conflict, where gods, monsters, and mortals are all swept into the wheels of fate. Blood will soak the earth, fire will consume the skies, and the order of the cosmos will shatter. That prophecy, hidden within the stone cave of the Norns, the three seeresses of fate, did not reveal when Ragnarok would come, but it foretold one certainty. When the chain Gleipnir is broken, Fenrir will be free, and that is the first sign of the end of the gods. Fenrir, bound in darkness for hundreds of years, did not grow old, did not weaken. It lay there, growling in silence, eyes burning like embers, and in every dream, it saw itself devouring the sky, saw gods falling beneath its claws, and Odin, the one who deceived it, dying between its fiery jaws. No one knows if Fenrir ever truly heard the prophecy about itself. But the longer it was imprisoned, the greater the fury in its heart grew, like a volcano smoldering beneath a snowy peak. Ragnarok would not arrive in a single night. It would be heralded by a series of omens, the sun and moon devoured by two wolves, Skal and Hati, Fenrir's other children. The sky would blacken, cold winds blow from the north, trees wither, mankind turn against one another, war, betrayal, and greed would rise. When these signs appear, the chain Gleipnir will shatter on its own. Fenrir will emerge from the cave in towering form. Each step cracks the earth. Each breath melts the ice and snow. It will not roar, will not speak, only move silently toward Asgard, where the gods await an inescapable fate. Odin, knowing his end, will ride his eight-legged steed, Sleipnir, into battle, and Fenrir, the embodiment of repressed fury, will tear him apart with flaming jaws. No god will be strong enough to stop it, but fate grants victory to no one. Vidar, Odin's silent son, absent from every feast of the gods, will be the one to avenge him. With a special shoe crafted from thousands of donated scraps of leather, he plants one foot on Fenrir's lower jaw, grips his sword, and drives it through the wolf's throat. Fenrir will die, but so too will Odin. The great battle ends in blood, fire, and ashes. Most gods will fall, the old world will collapse. Yet the prophecy does not end in death. It speaks of rebirth. From the ruins of the old, a new world shall rise. A new sun will shine. Mankind will live peacefully, and peace will return, at least for a time. So what is Fenrir in this story? A monster? A tool of destiny? Or a victim of divine fear, condemned for a future that had not yet come to pass? Whatever you believe, one thing cannot be denied. When Fenrir breaks free, the world will never be the same. When the final ashes of Ragnarok fall silently upon the world, when the howls fade and the earth no longer trembles beneath god or beast, there will be time to reflect. Among all the beings in that apocalyptic tragedy, Fenrir, the bound wolf, remains the most controversial. Fenrir has been called monster, destroyer, the shadow of Ragnarok. But if we look back, was it truly evil? Fenrir did not choose its fate. It was not born with hatred or a desire to kill. It was simply a child, a young soul raised under the fearful gaze of the powerful. From the first moment it opened its eyes, the world branded it a threat, not because of its actions, but because a prophecy said it would become dangerous. And so before it could understand who it was, Fenrir was surrounded by lies. The gods laughed and played with it, but inside, they schemed. They bound it through deception, and when it bit off Tyr's hand, an act born from betrayal, Fenrir was instantly labeled a demon. But Fenrir was not a mindless beast. It was a reflection of the gods' fears, the result of a society desperate to control fate by preventing what had not yet occurred. The evil placed upon Fenrir may have been nothing more than a projection of the human heart. In Ragnarok, when it kills Odin, the one who saw the future and acted as if fate was unchangeable, it is not a triumph of brutality, but the closing of a vicious circle where fear leads to action and action fulfills prophecy. So the question must be asked, was Fenrir a monster or a victim of the very gods who sought to prevent the inevitable? There is no single answer. For in all mythology, what we call demons are often just the different ones, the outcasts, the ones never given a chance to become something good, and Fenrir, perhaps, was merely a child devoured by fear before it had the chance to grow. In the cold current of Norse myth, Fenrir's tale is more than a legend of a chained beast. It is a mirror reflecting the hidden nature of gods, of mankind, and of fate. Fenrir did not choose to be a destroyer. It did not choose betrayal or hatred. But when it was seen through a lens of fear, when prophecy was used to justify its binding before anything had happened, what they called destiny became a curse forged by their own hands. The gods tried to prevent disaster, but in doing so, they sowed the seeds of tragedy. They created a monster not with magic, but with mistrust, deception, and judgment. And like a chain of fate-struck dominoes, everything unfolded exactly as foretold, not because fate was unchangeable, but because they made it so. So who is Fenrir? A symbol of rebellion, of freedom strangled? Or a victim, condemned by a future never written? Perhaps it is both. And that duality is what makes Fenrir's story resonate even today, because within each of us, there is a part like Fenrir, a part that is doubted, restricted, labeled for what others fear we might become. And the question is, will we let ourselves be bound or fight to prove that destiny does not define us? Remember, sometimes the monster we fear the most is the one we created ourselves.
Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. If you found the video helpful and interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any future videos. Wishing you a wonderful day and see you in the next video.